Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Classic Gamer 74. I'm your host, Anthony Gamer, and in today's episode, we're going to discuss emulation on the Sega Dreamcast. For many fans, the Sega Dreamcast is the be-all and end-all of game consoles, and rightfully so. The system itself was just amazing. It was one of the first, if not the first, game console to have internet access, so you could have online playing. The graphics were just amazing. The colors, the gameplay. I love the controller. And you have to admit that the games for this console just stood out amongst the others. It is a shame, however, that this would be Sega's final console in their swan song, but yet, for many people, this was probably one of the greatest game consoles ever made. And with this console having such a special place in so many people's hearts, a lot of people would use this console to play vintage games. Now, this is an interesting concept in itself because the other game consoles at the time wouldn't allow you to play vintage games unless you bought them in some sort of collection. Like, for instance, PS1 made it possible to buy a lot of the Midway games in their own collection. Same thing with Xbox, is when Xbox Live would be up, you would be able to get a lot of vintage games. Several of my former students have told me about being able to play Tank Wars, and they got it off Xbox Live. But with the Dreamcast, it had something a little special that would allow people to emulate on this system. And that was the fact that early Dreamcasts did not have copy protection. So, in the case of like the PS1, you would have to get a mod chip, either plugged in the back or have the system torn apart by someone who knows what they're doing. In the case of early Dreamcasts, you would be able to simply play copied games on there. Although copying games is kind of a science in itself, I've never been able to do it. Now, to find out if you have the ability to play copied games, all you have to do is turn your Dreamcast over, look on the back, and if you see the number 0 or 1, you are able to do it. Now, I found a gentleman on Etsy that makes these collections so that these various vintage game consoles can be played on the Dreamcast. He also makes some computer systems and all kinds of cool stuff. So I will link his Etsy store in the description below. So, without further ado, let's check out these games and see how they emulate on the Dreamcast. Okay, so first off, we check out these startup screen on the ColecoVision games. As you can see by checking, we got quite a few ColecoVision games on here, but the only one we don't have is that Wizard of Id game, which is too bad because that's a fun game and it's also the most valuable edutainment game ever made. So we're just going to look through the ROMs a little bit till we find one to try. There's Frogger. How about we give that one a try? Now, like any emulation, it's not 100% foolproof, and besides that, not all the games are going to work. That's just kind of a given with emulation. Although, to be honest, I've checked out quite a few, and most of them do work pretty well. So you can see that we got Frogger started up here. Just trying to remember exactly how to start it. Because, again, you don't have that keypad that you have on for the ColecoVision controller that you have on the Dreamcast. So there I go. All right. So you can see color, sound is great. My gameplay is not great, but, that's to be given. So it works out pretty well. I didn't have much trouble with the controls, switching between the ColecoVision controller, which I hate, and using the Dreamcast controller, which I absolutely love. So, unfortunately, when you would like to pick another game, you have to shut it all the way down. There's no way going back to the menu. So, is this one worth getting? If you love Dreamcast and you love ColecoVision, it sure is. Before we go any further, I just wanted to let you guys know that I could not get the NES to work. I tried and I tried, but the emulation just kept throwing me to a menu, and then it didn't like my one controller. So I'm going to hopefully get a new version of it to get it, hopefully to be able to get it to work. Of course, I am recording this on an actual Dreamcast. I'm using real hardware. I just got a capture card, and as you can see, it's turning out really well. But just want to let you know, no NES. So let's continue. All right, next up we have NeoGeo 50. All right, now this one I was a bit disappointed in because it didn't have as many NeoGeo games as I thought it would. You see, we got the directory there, and I'm going to pick my all-time favorite NeoGeo game, Baseball Stars 2. Pretty self-explanatory how to do everything, but like the previous emulator, this one doesn't have an exit. I mean, you can't exit back to the menu. You got to turn it all the way off, which is a pain, but it is what it is. It takes a little while to load the game. I see that, but once it gets going, it's pretty sweet. Check it out. Oh yeah, remember that in the arcade? Oh yeah. Controls are pretty easy to figure out too. Start button and all that good stuff. And yes, you do have all four controllers, of course, all four buttons, excuse me, that work. Look at that picture. Really nice. Yep, looks just like the arcade. And best of all, you don't have to keep putting coins in like you do in the arcade. So, really nice setup. Very well done, I have to say. Overall, I have to say that the Neo Geo was turned out pretty sweet. My only, and I mean my only complaint, is that there were not enough Neo Geo games on here. Which again may be a memory thing. I'm not really sure. I would have liked to have seen more games on here from the Neo Geo arcade, but they, for one reason or another, didn't make it on here. But other than that, that's about the only complaint I do have. So if you're a Neo Geo person, minus some of the games that aren't on here, like Metal Slug, those aren't on here. But other than that, it's a pretty sweet deal. Okay, next we're going to talk about the emulation that is probably the most involved, but believe it or not, it works the best, and that is for the Atari 5200. Now, emulating the 5200 has always kind of been a pain. Any of you that have ever done anything with emulation, you know that. It's not the easiest to emulate on just about anything. However, this one is pretty foolproof. Now, when you start up, you go over here to cartridge management, and then you insert cartridge, and look at all the games that are on here. Now, you'll notice there are several different versions of each game. And why is that? Well, because sometimes they don't work. But you will find one out of the batch that does. It's just basically trial and error. And best off, you can go back to this menu anytime you want to. By just hitting the left trigger button, it'll take you right back to it. So let's go ahead and select Hero, one of my favorite Activision games. And again, you can find ways to get this to work. All you got to do is just finagle it a little bit, and you will get the games to work. Not that all of them will work well. Unfortunately, one of my favorite games on here, that being the miniature golf prototype, doesn't work. You actually really need a legitimate 5200 controller, or you have to play it on one of the Atari collections for the PS4, which I'll be talking about next week. But as you can see, the gameplay is great. Works just fine. Picture is beautiful. Controller works just fine. I just goofed there, and that's really sad because I'm usually really great at this game. But overall, out of all of the emulators, this one, like I said, is kind of the biggest pain to do, but it works the best. So, like I said, this one definitely, if you love the 5200 and you also love your Dreamcast, why not combine them both together? You will not be disappointed. All right, and next up we have the MSX. Now, this is cool because not only does it have the MSX1, it has MSX2, and look at the selection of games. Wow. Yeah, there's quite a few. If there's an MSX1 or 2 game that you want trust me, it's on here. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick one of my all-time favorites, that being Dig Dug. Now, you can do as little as you want with this. It's really up to you. You can pull down the keyboard. If you are an MSX user or are very familiar with how the MSX works, you can pretty much do it all with this. Of course, most of us that did not own an actual MSX back in the day, or, we're mostly using it to play games. And as you can see, same thing, just like it always is, very smooth. Controls are very responsive, so very, very happy with this. Definitely, this is one that is worth grabbing if you are, like I said, if you're big into MSX. This is definitely one to not pass by. This and the 5200 are by far the best emulation on the Dreamcast that I've seen so far. And our final emulation for today is going to be MAME. Now, many of you that watch my channel are longtime gamers, longtime users of emulation, and you know that even in a perfect world, MAME can be buggy. And games that are on MAME can be buggy and not work. So just keep that in mind if you're ever thinking about getting this one. Personally, I would not recommend getting this because it takes a while to load each game. As you can see, this is just Asteroids, and it takes a little while to get this up and running. Then it took me a while to remember which is the insert coin button, and each game is different. There's not a set button scheme like there is when you play MAME on pretty much any other device. So, yeah, honestly, this is one I would not recommend getting if you are, like I said, a Dreamcast enthusiast, simply because of the fact that, again, there's a lot of games missing. And I had trouble with some of games that if I were a Dreamcast enthusiast and I purchased this, I would be very disappointed by some of the games that didn't work and by the games that were not included. So MAME is best left emulated on a computer or like the Super Console X or the handhelds that I had talked about in previous episodes. And not really something I would recommend trying out on the Dreamcast. But okay, now for my final thoughts. Do I think it is worth it to go to, I guess, the trouble or the expense to emulate on the Dreamcast? My personal opinion, no. I had a lot of trouble getting some of the emulators to run consistently. And honestly, emulation is best left on computer, in my opinion. Although, like I said, the 5200 worked great, which, again, doesn't happen that often. That is one I would purchase if I, like I said, were a Dreamcast enthusiast. I would get that. And the MSX, it's nice too, but emulation seems to work best on computer. And honestly, yeah, it should pretty much be left there. So what are your thoughts? Are you a Dreamcast enthusiast? Have you had experience with emulation on your Dreamcast? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your stories. In our next episode, we're going to discuss a game that has taken me 30 years to beat it, but I finally did. And that is Kabuki Quantum Fighter for the NES. And with that, this episode of Classic Gamer 74 has come to a close. I really hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, let me know by giving me a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to click that little bell icon down there so you'll be notified when I upload any new videos. Support me on all my social media platforms. Check out my internet radio station. Check out the Classic Gamer 74 store. And please check out my Patreon. I got some cool videos up there that you're not going to find anywhere else. And supporting this channel would greatly be appreciated. I will put the list of my patrons up on screen once I start getting some more. So please be generous and help this channel out for as little as $1 a month. Well, until next time, this has been Anthony Gamer. Have yourselves a great week. Until next time, be strong, be safe, be happy, be healthy, and above all, take care of each other, be kind to each other, and stop hate of all kinds. See you soon. Bye.